Good morning, everybody. My name is Tamara Barrow, and this is a press briefing from the Ministry of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development, and Culture. Over the last 2 months, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has been strategically positioning itself as a leading destination in the tourism sector within the Caribbean. Today, we are going to update you on these recent developments within the sector, and Honorable Carlos James will be the person that is giving you these updates. We want to thank you, members of the media that are present, those persons who are listening online via VC3 and the various platforms, and also those that are listening on NBC Radio and other radio platforms. And we will go straight into our press briefing as I hand over to the Minister.
Thank you very much, Tamara. Let me say good morning to members of the media who are here and those who are viewing on various media platforms. We just recently had a few developments within the tourism sector and civil aviation. I took a brief visit to Miami for several meetings last week, and this press briefing is really to update you on what the developments coming out of those meetings. The first meeting was with Royal Caribbean Group, as you know, one of the leading cruise liners across the cruise industry. We had a continuous dialogue with Royal Caribbean, and as recent as a few weeks ago, prior to my recent visit to Miami, there was a sea trade at the Miami Conference Center, which we engaged a few stakeholders there from Royal Caribbean. And we came to the realization that a lot of the cruise industry stakeholders, they're looking to reboot, they're looking to get back out into the sailing waters, and they're recruiting staff. And we had extensive dialogue with Vice President of Government Relations for the Americas and also the Caribbean, Russell and Wendy from Royal Caribbean. And we, at the end of those discussions, formulated a memorandum of understanding, which will see Royal Caribbean coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines to recruit as much as up to 2,000 Vincentians. And this development, I think, is a significant one for the cruise industry, significant development for persons or stakeholders and employees within the tourism sector. Because part of the arrangement is that Royal Caribbean will facilitate training for a number of the persons who are being recruited for this exercise. We do have a significant shortage of trained personnel within the tourism sector. It continues to be a challenge, not just in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but across the EC Islands. And having as much as 2,000 persons going off to Royal Caribbean to take up different specialty positions and entry-level positions, and being able to be afforded the opportunity for training, I think is also a significant part of this exercise. One of the important things I note in my discussions with Royal Caribbean, I said, we have a number of persons who are going to, especially from the red and orange zones, in North Leeward and North Windward, who are going to apply. And it is going to be very difficult in the recruitment exercise for them to pay an application fee to a number of the recruitment agencies that they will normally go through in Barbados and other countries, even here locally in St. Vincent. The application process for a visa and travel to the embassy in Barbados also will pose some challenges. And we're just recovering from the explosive eruption of the last of just a year into our recovery, and we do still have significant challenges. And we came to the conclusion that all of these arrangements, we will see minimal cost. If there is any cost at all, significantly reduced costs to applicants who are applying under this process. In fact, in going to the embassy, the application fees and so on, Royal Caribbean will observe those costs. The application process, there will not be an application fee to any agent in applying for a position with the cruise industry, the cruise agents. And all of these things will be crystallized and spearheaded through the Ministry of Tourism in collaboration with the agency and also Royal Caribbean during the exercise currently and when they return to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a few weeks. An important part of the discussion, I said to them as well, look, listen, we have persons who will be traveling from as far north as Fancy and Fitzhugh, and it is going to be very challenging to arrange transportation, even a simple thing as getting lunch in Kingston, because you have to wait long hours, extended hours. I've seen some of the lines in the south eastern area, Beachcombers, where there's the application process taking place. And we came to the conclusion that we will also extend this recruitment drive to the red and orange zones, decentralizing the application process. So it means that we'll identify a site on the northwestern end of the island and also a site on the northeastern end of the island, in which we will take the recruitment exercise to the communities as opposed to persons coming into Kingston with the long and extended lines that we have been seeing taking place to date. So I think that is a big plus in terms of facilitating persons who are directly adversely affected by the explosive eruption of the last for those in the red and orange zones. And we intend to do this in a few weeks. Hopefully by the end of June, maybe early July, we will see the recruitment exercise with Royal Caribbean here again in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So far to date, you will probably ask, well, we've had a few days of recruitment. In fact, in the last May 13th to 15th, we had Royal Caribbean on the ground. To date, approximately 400 persons have already gained full-time employment with Royal Caribbean Cruises through the recruitment fair hosted at Beachcombers. And that is within that short period, 400 persons have already been employed, and employed on the spot, in a sense that they've met all of the requirements and has been offered a space with the Royal team to go off to on a vessel, hopefully during the start of the upcoming season. The recruitment drive was fast-tracked from the regular employment process that usually takes place with Royal Caribbean. Successful applicants were interviewed, pre-screened by a medical team on spot, and the job offer was presented to them once the necessary background checks were completed. And those new employees will be entered into the Royal Caribbean system, as I indicated, and will go off in the upcoming season. So while we would have had that exercise last week, by the end of June into early July, they will return to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we will continue to have a centralized location for recruitment in Kingston, somewhere in the vicinity of Kingston, the Villa area. But we intend to extend, as I said, those two locations to the northeastern and northwestern side of the island, going directly into the red and orange zones to facilitate the recruitment process for persons to go off. So we have already filled part of the quota, just 400 persons. We have another 1,600 people to go in terms of the recruitment. And hopefully we can meet that quota. Of course, though the target is to reach 2,000 persons in terms of the recruitment drive. You may naturally see that being either a limited number below 2,000 based on the requirements and the threshold that the applicants will have to meet, or you may very well see that number going beyond 2,000 based on the requirements and the available vacancies that are on offer with the Royal Caribbean Cruise. Some of the positions that are available in the marine sector: junior seaman, junior engineman, assistant electricians, assistant refrigeration engineer, assistant repairman, assistant carpenter, assistant upholster. In operations, laundry attendants, galley stewards, entry-level cold galley staff, entry-level hot galley staff, entry-level butchers, pastry bakers, restaurant attendants, waiters, bar utility and waiters and tenders, storekeepers, public attendants, cabin stewards, cruise staff, youth staff, and sport staff. Those who are trained in sports science, who may want to offer those level of exercises and physiotherapy and all of these things to guests on these cruise ships. There are also some specialty positions in the casino: dealers, slot technicians, cashiers, and also culinary positions as chef, housekeeping, boat supervisory and management, beverage supervisory and management, cruise staff, technicians, light, sound engineers, and those who are involved in photography, studio artists, and all of these variant positions will become available to Vincentians who are applying to the process. We want to thank Royal Caribbean Group for facilitating the Memorandum of Understanding with St. Vincent and the Grenadines, ensuring that we're able to recruit as much Vincentians. In fact, they noted that they have a high number of Vincentians already employed with Royal Caribbean, and they spoke glowingly of the quality of our human resource capital here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the enthusiasm and their willingness to work. And I also reiterated to Royal Caribbean Group that we are certainly not short of the human resource capacity, and we want to get as much Vincentians off on these short-term contracts or long-term contracts of employment with the company. So we at the Ministry of Tourism will be facilitating pre-interview sessions, working along with personnel within the different agencies of Royal Caribbean, but also importantly applicants, those who may want to show up at one of the job fairs or the employment centers when we have them established. There are a number of requirements which you will need: a valid passport, of course, a police record. As I said, they will be facilitating medicals on site, and even further medicals for persons who they may want to recruit, but there may be issues that may pop up from time to time medically. But you must have a valid passport and a clean police record, and of course a valid identification card, so that we can assist with documenting and facilitating the application process. There's a portal in which persons who are applying will have to lodge their applications for a pre-assessment screening. The site will be RCLC Track, which is TRAC, rclctrac.com, which will take you to the portal. Of course, at the ministry, we will provide that information, send it out to the media in terms of a link, a direct link that persons can access to the application portal. But of course, it's important that we alert persons that you're just not showing up at the application center with at the recruitment center without a valid ID, passport, and a police record. Those are three forms of forms that are important in terms of the application process. I just want to briefly mention, while in Miami as well, we had the fourth ministerial meeting of the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority member states. And this meeting, the ministerial meeting, where a declaration of intent was signed by all member states of the Eastern Caribbean territory to facilitate the harmonizing of our civil aviation legislation to allow for a more harmonized form of having ECA regulating the regulatory aspect of civil aviation within the Eastern Caribbean. Of course, one of the challenges we had when we were downgraded to a Category 2 was that some countries, though they may have been up to par with the requisite regulations and standards for safety and oversight, there are some that were well below that standard. And we took the decision that we will work along with the International Civil Aviation Authority organization and the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority to facilitate having the Director General of ECA having a lot more oversight as to the regulatory aspect of civil aviation within EC states, and to allow ECA to function with a stronger mandate so as to properly regulate the aspects at our airport and our airspace in relation to safety and oversight, as it relates to the constant monitoring and approvals of licensing and the operations as it relates to the regulatory aspect of the protocols that deals with regulations that allow us to be in conformity with the International Civil Aviation Organization. So we took that decision there, that meeting, to facilitate that. And we're hoping by the end of this year to move to look at a number of different measures in which we can at some point move back to Category 1 status. And I think it's important that I mention this at this time, bearing in mind that we had several meetings in Miami, and this was one of the meetings in which we attended to facilitate the move back to Category 1 within the whole space of civil aviation. I want to encourage persons or applicants who will be going off to the recruitment centers which will be established for the Royal Caribbean Recruitment Drive to be mindful of your deportment, prepare yourselves, speak to persons who would have had the experience of going through the application process currently and in the past. In fact, yesterday I met one former seafarer, a seaman from Spring Village, who said to me, well, he's available to go into the communities and work with us to prepare applicants in terms of a number of job fairs, particularly in the North Leeward area, to give them an orientation as to the application process and life out at sea. And it's important that persons who have a keen interest in applying for these positions to be aware of what the challenges are and what the pros and cons are in terms of life out at sea and the opportunities that are there for you for forward an advancement in terms of employment and opportunities for livelihoods, sustainable livelihoods. I want to stop at this point, and if there are any questions from members of the media, you can feel free to ask any questions pertaining to the tourism sector at current.
Yeah, they were discussing the issue on radio on Monday morning, and there was a comment made. Someone on a reporter was saying that there were a number of persons who actually turned up um, at Beachcombers over the weekend who did not follow the proper procedure, which was to throw the application online. Is this true? Or did that affect their ability to register or to get an interview?
It's a very, very, very important question. In fact, that is the point which I made, that there are persons who, and when I provided the URL link, there are persons who are not aware that there was a pre-application process and a portal which will be open to facilitate the application process. And they just turned up, in fact, some without any documentation for that matter. So we have to obviously start, and this press conference, the press briefing is one of those engagements with informing the public as to the application process, what will take place, and how to expedite the process with having long lines and extended waiting periods. In fact, one of the things that we intend to do is to establish at the recruitment centers computers where persons can actually apply there on the spot, load their information while they are waiting the application process to take place. We don't want everyone to come there without having gone into the link to the portal to apply, because it then will mean that a lot of persons will be there queuing up to maybe use 2 or 3 computers which will be made available, as opposed to you staying at home using your mobile phone or even a tablet and going through the application portal there and then. So when you come to the interview, you're already in queue to just go straight to the actual face-to-face interview process. So you are in fact correct that quite a few persons turned up without having gone to the portal or even bringing their information to assist with the application process. So that is something that we intend to do, and starting with this press briefing, informing persons as to the pre-application portal process that must take place before going to one of these job recruitment sites.
Okay, you mentioned that the next visit by the very same company that was at Royal Caribbean is scheduled for the end of June. Do you have an exact date?
Right. We haven't yet pinned down the dates because there are a number of competing factors which will probably impact their arrival here sooner than the suggested period. But between the periods end of June, early July, and of course it's smack in the middle of Carnival,
Right.
which I did indicate to them that the first week of July we do have our usual Carnival activities. So it's going to be between that period, and of course we will provide further update to the members of the media and the general public as to the exact dates when this application process will continue on the ground. But in the meantime, persons can still go to the portal and lodge their pre-application information to await the face-to-face interviews when they do return in a few weeks to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And I have one more question to keep basically, after this other trip that's planned, um, can we expect to see more visits from Royal Caribbean or perhaps other cruise lines?
Certainly, there's also Carnival Cruise Lines. They're going through a process of not face-to-face recruitment, but paper application that is done through the Department of Labor to facilitate that aspect of recruitment. But I am quite certain that based on the turnout in the last couple of days when Royal Caribbean was here, 400 persons were confirmed into positions. The potential that is here, they will definitely come back even after the period which they intend to return at the end of June, early July. They will then return to see how we can facilitate a lot more persons from St. Vincent and the Grenadines going off. Certainly, the recruitment drive is ongoing, but also let us not forget that we're also looking at recruiting 500 persons to go off on the Sandals program as well. So even those who may not meet the requirements for the Royal Caribbean program, recruitment program, Sandals is still looking for another 400 plus persons. So far, I think maybe over 100 plus persons have gone off. And they, over a period of time, will be taking persons off for training. And we continue to explore different and other avenues for employment for persons within the sector. I know there are some conversations currently with an overseas company in Europe looking at the possibility of some recruitment as well for trained and unskilled persons within the tourism sector. And I want to emphasize the importance of this activity. What we found when hotels like La View opened and places like Bungalow and other restaurants and spots in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a lot of the sailors during the pandemic came home. They have had 20 plus years experience at sea. And they said, listen, I'm trained in hospitality at a particular level or grade. I can work at any resort in the world, but I decided I'm coming home to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we have a bartender at Bungalow who has a significant experience up to a grade 7, class 7 training, which is one of the most significant advanced training in hospitality. At La View, we have some experienced bartenders and who came off of ships who were there. In fact, one is from North Leeward. And the idea is to get more persons out on these exercises of employment and so on, but to have them come back to St. Vincent because we're going to have Royal Mill, Sandals, Marriott, Black Sands, a number of major hotels here on mainland. Some of them are going to be 4 and 5 star hotels that would require a particular type of training. And we intend and we hope that a number of persons who then go off to have the entry level and even advanced training while working at the same time will return to St. Vincent in a few years when these hotels are completed and operationalized to take up positions and jobs within the sector. There's ongoing training through the technical vocational centers and also the community college. But the amount of people, for instance, beaches alone, Beaches by Sandals Resort, it's about 1,000 people they're looking to recruit during the operational phase of that exercise. 1,000 people trained in hospitality. And Royal Mill, no doubt, will have about nearly as much people. Marriott will have a significant amount of people as well. And we're looking at a couple thousand people. We don't have the skill sets here at the moment in terms of the volume. And I am happy when there are engagements with Royal and Sandals and other recruitment agencies that can take persons out, and even unskilled persons, out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, offer them, one, employment, but also training and experience and exposure that they can return to take up the positions here on island when they do become available. So it's really a significant move for us here on island, and I think it's something that we should all commend and look forward to as it relates to that.
Any more questions? All right, if that's it, if there aren't any more questions, thank you, Minister, for updating us on the recent developments within the tourism sector. I also want to thank the members of the media who are present here with us, and for those online and other media houses and radio stations that are broadcasting, thank you for staying with us. And I wish you guys a very productive day.